is, I guess, an example of if you needed to make like a teapot or like a teacup or a mug with a handle coming out of it, I found to be like a not totally terrible way of actually modeling that. And I just kind of wanted to show you guys that really quick. So also a fun thing about the insert edge loop tool. So if I am like, cool, here's the shape of my mug, I'm going to add a little bit more geometry into here. So here's like the way, normally when you do insert edge loop tool, it just puts an edge straight on your model, like it'll leave the sides straight, and just sort of tack an edge loop in there randomly. If I hold down shift before clicking to add that edge loop, I say maybe add a loop here, it'll actually change the curvature of your object as you go. So this is like kind of, I don't know, for some reason I was making wheels for a chicken wheelchair over the weekend, so I just like threw up some videos of me making the wheels in case anyone was interested, and I used the same thing to make the curvature on the inside. But it's handy to know about. Again, just holding shift when you add an edge loop in will kind of keep the edges more rounded, so you don't need to go back and manually do it later. Anywho, so if I wanted to add an edge into this, I found the reasonable way to do that is to just grab these loops here, extrude them, and then I'll just scale these down ever so slightly, perhaps like this, and then I'll just circularize that. So again, circularize tool under the poly modeling tab. And now it's like, yay, it's circular and awesome looking. I'm going to extrude this again. And you can see where this is going. It's turning slowly into a handle. Yeah. Ideally, if you do this, you'd start with edge loops like directly on an axis instead of sort of hovering off randomly in midair. So I might just like rotate this slightly to make my life easier. All right. And you'll notice, I mean, okay, this is actually kind of hard to notice here. All right, close enough. So it might not be super noticeable, but like one thing, it makes like a pretty not totally awful bend in here. Sometimes you'll notice there's like a little bit of pinching, and that's just because when the circularize tool runs, so this is like really much more obvious when the model isn't smooth, but like when the circularize tool runs, it will make the circle completely flat. The downside of this is that mugs are generally round, so it's usually not a bad idea to go through and just like grab these verts in here and just shift them out slightly so that they follow more in line with the curvature of the actual cup itself. So again, just like grab all the verts in here, maybe just make them a little bit more curvy. And now hopefully you can see maybe that this is like pretty reasonable looking of a bend. And then if I had to go in and add more edge loops, like if I wanted this to be a harder crease in here, the geometry allows me to do that really, really easily. So I'll just go to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, and I can just throw an edge loop like as close to this as I want and get a nice, a pretty nice edge coming off of here. There's not a lot of pulling in this. And it's like I found, again, just be pretty reasonable way of making loops in cups. One thing I see a lot, I've seen this in like assignments now. I saw this like a bunch in assignments. I'm pretty sure I tried to do this like when I was in this class. But one thing I'll see a lot is like grabbing these loops here and maybe just extruding them out like this. And then you're like, cool, but I need this to be a harder edge. I mean, first we're going to ignore the fact this is just a weird cube, but so like a lot of times what I'll see is people coming in and like adding edge loops like this to sort of harden the edges here, and that's like a valid way to do things, except now you have like all of this weird like hard lines in the side of this mug here, which hopefully you guys can see on the projector, but yeah, so I mean, you've added extra edge loops, so it's basically going to make little hard lines all around your mug. Usually I would fix this pretty much the same way as I did the sides of the spool, where I would just grab these three vertices here and just merge them to center. So now these quads are connected directly to each other. It pretty much is creating the same pattern of geometry as this extrude here. I just think this is an easier way to do things. But again, it really just depends on how you like working. So I'll just go through and do that for all of the sides of this. And now you can see I still have some extra edge loops in here, so I'm just going to come through, grab these, and get them the heck off the model. So I'll just control delete those to get rid of the edges and the verts. And also this dude. And you can see that now I have the handle coming out of my mug, and there's no real pulling or anything like that on the model. So, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much how I make mugs now if I need to make mugs. If I wanted to make this like one solid handle, I would just do the same thing down here where I just like grab these guys and then extrude them out, and then I would just delete these edges here and bridge the two sections together. So I totally have extra stuff selected here. So again, just grab these guys. I'll just do this like really, really grossly for the sake of demonstration. And be like, awesome, this is a delightfully formed handle here. And then just like grab these edges here and these edges here and do a edit mesh bridge. And now you have a super lovely looking handle, sort of. But yeah, so I mean that's usually, again, how I make handles on stuff. Yeah, it's nice because like doing it like this where the handle is actually modeled into the cup does allow you to get this nice sort of curvature in here, which is harder to do if you're just clipping geometry through each other. And it makes it look a little bit more naturalistic, because like if you look at mugs, most of them don't have like a really, really sharp edge where they're intersecting with the mug itself. And again, that's just like a kind of a function of how they're made. Like most mugs are ceramic, so they're going to have a little handle that was probably attached by some kind of slip, basically like clay glue. And then once these are glazed, they get a whole coat of like thick gooey stuff over that crease to smooth that out a little more. So that's a lot of times why you won't see really, really hard lines in ceramic stuff, is just because of how it's made. Anywho, does anyone have questions about that? All right then. What are you guys feeling? I could do another random demo on random things, or I could free you guys. Anyone have a preference? I feel like that's a bad question. I feel like everyone's gonna be too afraid to be like, free us, free us. All right, in that case, you are free to go, and I will exist here in case anyone has questions.